Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. Today we're going to take you around the garden and give you a nice tour of what's blooming, and there sure is a lot that's blooming. So I hope you enjoy this tour. My name is Soleil and I garden in mid-Michigan, and I'm in a zone 5B. And we have had a huge amount of drought, but we just got a good rain, so lots of stuff is popping. Let's take a look. Well, thank you for joining me today. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, that's just my son and my husband playing in the pool. It is around 80 degrees outside and it's 8:30 at night and it is a bit humid. But that's okay. We are very grateful that we got some rain. I just want to take a peek over in this corner so you can see this storm shelter daylily. Isn't the color on that one beautiful? It's got ruffled edges and a yellow center with a deep purple ring around it and then pink. Absolutely stunning. The Millennium Garlic is starting to really put on a show as well, and we'll see that throughout the garden as I have that edging. And it's just starting to pop in many different places, although it's not quite out. You just can't miss this quick fire hydrangea over here in the corner. It's absolutely amazing. It's already starting to turn color. It probably went from all white to colorful within a couple of days just recently, and I think it's because of the heat, and it's really a stunner. Now, for those of you who don't know, I did have that really tall branch come out last year, and I really just wanted to leave it there because I thought it would make a beautiful pop, kind of a bit of a pom-pom in the air. Just couldn't bring myself to cut that down. And this Japanese maple is really thriving. This is one I got on clearance. Of course, I got many of the plants in my garden on clearance. Here we have a wonderful array of coneflowers, the Cheyenne Spirit, and then amongst it I have planted some of the beautiful snapdragons. Those are the deep red, and that is the Black Prince variety that I grew from seed. And the clematis behind this fire gold spirea is finally starting to reach up and over the top of it. So I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that one bloom this year. That was a new one last year. And just look at this luminary phlox. Isn't that gorgeous? I think this one is called the ultraviolet. So amazing. I love the color on that one. Can't wait to have more of it. This strawberry Sunday hydrangea is just getting ready to bloom. We have quite a few of these throughout the garden. They're definitely not one of the first bloomers, but they will be gorgeous when they come out. And as you can see over here, behind the fountain, we have some beautiful Cleopatra coneflowers along with the liatris. And the vanilla strawberry hydrangea is finally really budding out. This one is going to be amazing. I absolutely love it when it begins to flower and bloom. I think you will too. So I planted a couple of Cleopatra coneflowers that we saw in the clearance video right in here, just for that extra pop of color. And they're looking pretty good already. We still have plenty of color with the heuchera in this area. What I've done now though is because it's so incredibly full of flowers in the garden, as I've come through and started to cut back the small flowers above the heuchera just to give it a more manicured look. Otherwise, there's just so much for your eyes to take in this time of year. We have some daylilies down here that are called Orange Smoothie, and several of them have just closed for the day, but you can see what a bright orange color they are. right here. I was lucky enough to have some beautiful hummingbirds come through today. It was fantastic. So this sedum autumn joy right here is beginning to put on buds, and I did not Chelsea chop this one. I did Chelsea chop the one that's to the right, so you can see that that one is going to be probably a couple of weeks behind this other one. And it's a nice comparison to see, I thought, for you to be able to see how they both perform and kind of compare the differences side by side, so you can make a decision about what is best for you in your garden. And this quickfire hydrangea back here is absolutely gorgeous. This is its first full year in the garden. I planted that last fall. Now coming along in here, everything is looking much better. I spent the majority of the day today in the garden, and it was a wonderful day to clean up a lot of the dead and brown foliage. You may recall just how distressed these bilberry heucheras looked just a couple weeks ago and how well they have recovered since getting some water and some cooler temperatures. And I planted the snowdrift rose that I got on clearance right there. Down here we have more daylilies and some beautiful liatris, and growing through the liatris we have the Johnson's blue geranium. Plenty of color everywhere. They are not open yet, but these will be daylilies. They will be also the storm shelter daylilies with those dark purple colors. And so this is some of today's work. I filled up that cart. I also have cleaned up this bed. You may recall that I had some liriope in this bed at the edge of the border, right next to the racks. And so I have pulled those out. I have just decided that I'm really not a grass person. I do love it, and I love to see it in other people's gardens, but for some reason in my own garden, I just don't really like it that much. I'm not sure why. Let's just take a look down at the garden from this angle. We have so many blooms on this golden tiara hosta right here. Just amazing. We had some hummingbirds in the garden today that were enjoying some of the blooms. I actually posted a reel on Instagram of them. Here's that new planting of the gorgeous salvia with a bumblebee enjoying it, and the Cleopatra coneflower planted behind it. So those are going to just really fill in nicely, I think. Now over here I also got a couple of heucherellas, and I have just tucked them in for that additional color because I have the one that's not doing so well. It's a mahogany monster, and I'm not sure. I feel like there's something in the soil that it just doesn't really like, or maybe it was just not a good strong specimen, but it's not doing very well, so I put those heucherellas in there instead. I even cleaned up the mega caramel heuchera, and it's really starting to branch into that space that I made for it next to it so that it could kind of spread out in this area, and I think it looks amazing. The whole garden just looks so much nicer. You remember how brown the grass was last week? It still definitely has some brown in it, but there's green too now, so that's really nice. And I'm just going to show you these pots here because they are incredibly full of blooms. The dahlias and the begonias, everything is just thriving. even the nasturtiums are beginning to come back in the container with the rhubarb. Really, everything for the last few weeks has just been surviving instead of thriving, and this rain has set it back on the right track. So I'm really, really happy to see that. The Annabelle hydrangea is looking beautiful back here. And I've actually come through and done a little bit of editing in this bed because everything has gotten a bit grown now, and so you can see how big some of the different hostas will fill out. So I pulled out one of my filler hostas, which I use just to fill up space right here, so you can see some of the mulch in order to allow this hosta to really begin to utilize that space as well, because that one should get quite massive. I also have divided some Brunnera, so I have a new one right here. And that's just to kind of add to this Brunnera run along the edge of the pathway. And it has been a bad year this year for powdery mildew with all the humidity, but things are doing pretty good. I cleaned up a few of the leaves on these lungwort that had been affected, but really not so bad. Now you'll see one other space that I have opened up back here through pulling out a filler hosta. It was just a plain color. And I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is I have a rhododendron that might need a little bit more space, so that may go there. I'm not positive though, so I'm going to give it a little bit of time. And then, as I had indicated before, I wanted to pull out those white and green hostas that were in here. And that really just, I think, makes it a little bit more restful on the eyes as you come along here. And this path, it just allows you to focus more on the lungwort. And I will probably divide this lungwort at the end and put one in that space this fall. Now this bed down here, I have some new stuff going on. I was lucky enough to get some scabiosa, also referred to as the pincushion flower, on clearance for $2 a piece. So I think they make a really beautiful little liner along the edge of the rocks here for this bed. And I can't wait until those fill out. That may actually be a flower that I do give a little bit of fertilizer to, just so that I can see how it performs this year. I also pulled out a filler hosta right in this area, and this is going to be a new phlox. This one is called, I think it's called Cloudburst. It's beautiful pink. And so that one was a clearance plant as well. And it will be right up against a white David phlox. So that should be really pretty when it opens up. And the hellebores that I planted in this area are looking really good. Now on the left, you'll see I also divided a Brunnera here and made 3 new small plants. So those should fill in over time as well and look really nice. All right, let's check out the half moon garden. Now, I told you that my nasturtiums were doing quite poorly, so I have cut them all back real hard. This is the cardoon with some begonias, and then in front we have the nasturtium that have just been chopped back. So I'm hoping that those will flush out with some new green growth and look good over time. I have also divided some of my burgundy glow ajuga. I have been busy, guys. And so you can see I have a few small little divisions throughout this bed, and I did it as well to match on the other side. And my lavender chiffon Rose of Sharon is budding up. The Tian Shan 7 sunflower is budding up, and so is the hibiscus. We did actually get to eat a few of the blueberries off of the blueberry bush here, so that was fun, and they tasted absolutely delicious. And just look at that deep dark foliage over there on the hibiscus. So gorgeous. All right. Please ignore the hoses. That's what we have to do in order to work on the pool. Do backwashing and cleaning it. Everything's looking really lush and healthy over here. The baskets are looking good. I just switched them out so that the one on the right can get a little bit more sun. And the ferns and the Pollinator and the 9-bark here just look so pretty. I cannot believe how big these mop head hydrangeas are getting. Oh my goodness, they are absolutely beautiful. And yes, they do flop a little bit, not bad, considering the size of their blooms. I find them to be absolutely stunning. And the bloom heads are almost as big as my head. It's pretty crazy. But I think this long bed is really filling in nicely. It is finally starting to get a little bit of a structure and a kind of design style. Soon we'll be seeing some white daylilies as well blooming in here. And you can see this strawberry hydrangea over here is just starting to put out some white blooms. The potager garden is really healthy. It's definitely growing well. The carrot flowers are going to seed. I have amazing blooms on the strawberries, and those are going to set fruit. And I have lots of kale, and back behind that we have some gorgeous Cleopatra coneflower. So things are really thriving in here, and you can see the size of the tomatoes are just fantastic. I love an awesome garden ripened tomato. The sunflower is huge. This one just seeded itself. It'll be fun to see what colors it is. And then in this bed, the Kent Beauty oregano is gorgeous. I don't know if you can hear that helicopter, it's very loud. It's very low flying. It may be a medical helicopter. We're in the flight path between Ann Arbor and Lansing hospitals. This is coriander or cilantro that's going to seed here. So I have lots that I'm going to be able to collect soon. And all of the onions that are going to seed are probably going to be collected within the next week or two. And I'm getting some awesome looking yellow squash down in here, ripening up. And this tomato plant is also putting on fruit. And then throughout this bed, we have the purple Prince zinnia that I grew from seed that is starting to flower. And it just looks really nice. And this is where I got the transplants from for the Burgundy Glow Ajuga. The lady over here is hiding behind the coneflowers right now because they sure are big. They're at least 4 feet tall. And the sweet daisy, birdie daisies that I planted are looking cute in front. These should stay nice and low and have a rounded habit. And the pink mink clematis still has blooms on it. So this has done a really great job, and there's still some buds coming. All right, well, in this area you can start to see a little bit more of some flower power with the Magnus coneflower, the purpurea, and the golden tiara are beginning to bloom. The hostas in front there. Now, despite me cutting back the lilacs, they are still trying to grow back in this bed over here, so I will have to come through and cut them out again. Yet again, but that's okay. Despite being on the west side of my house and having a really good lack of rain, things seem to be thriving on this side of the house. I really have to choose things that are drought tolerant and that can handle that strong afternoon sun. And these low-grow sumacs and the barberry seem to do the ticket. You'll see there's also some daylilies that are tucked in here that haven't bloomed at all. And the lily of the valley and some Virginia. But it all makes for a very lush green area, even if it's not necessarily exactly what I want yet. Sure, you know how that goes. So many of the hosta flowers out here have either had a little bite of them taken off the top by the deer, or they're just at the end of their lifespan. So I'll be coming through and cutting the blooms off of the hostas out here because I think that will make it look a little bit more tidy. I like to leave them for the pollinators, and they do a good job of enjoying them, but I still do like to clean them up afterwards. So, get this weed. Okay, my sweet orange rose phlox is blooming, so let's go check that out. I love the color of this. Isn't that pretty? It does have some orange hues to it along with the pink and then that deep center. And I just love the color of the buds and how dark they are. Look at that. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's look at the front sunbed. The front sunbed over here in the island is looking awesome, you guys. So you can probably see that the bobo hydrangeas have started to bloom. And I'm loving just the pop of light yellow that the goldfinch Shasta daisies are providing. It's just such a soft color in this area, and it makes me really happy. And they're beautiful kind of frilly blossoms or blooms. And you can see we're going to have lots and lots of mums in here as well. There's another one of those daisies. They're really deep yellow, and then they lighten up as the blooms fade. I still have lots of the little drumstick alliums along the pathways, and the new plantings that we did last week are still looking good. So this bed is happy right now, and I'm still waiting to see if maybe we'll get a second bloom out of the Veronica. I haven't seen it bud up at all yet though. So let's take a look at what you see when you are driving down the road, because I think that view right now is even more beautiful than what we just saw. As we come around, you can start to see the bobo hydrangea up against the orange rocket barberry and those powwow wildberry pink echinacea, flanked by the sedum. And the sedum does appear to have gotten a bit of some nibbles from the deer, but not so bad that it is completely gone or that we won't have any blooms on it. So I'm really happy with the way that this bed looks right now. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, let's take a look at the long bed on the side over here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is my third time filming this section of the garden because the camera overheated and died, and then I refilmed it and I didn't turn on the microphone. But this is one of the most beautiful parts of the garden, so I don't mind, and we're going to enjoy it thoroughly a third time. But the coneflowers in these beds are definitely the star of the show right now. Even have them down at the mailbox, just really going to town. And this bed here is absolutely gorgeous because it has that black lace elderberry and the black scallop ajuga just setting that off, and the blue-gray foliage of the juniper I think is looking really great with the Beyond Blue fescue. And there's the Oscar Peterson rose in the back putting on some more blooms for us already, so isn't that great? And the pollinators are just really, really attracted to this. It's a great wildlife plant. I leave the seed heads on often for the goldfinches and other birds, but especially the goldfinches. I love seeing them flit about and get the seed from the seed heads. And here, even though I said I don't really like the grasses so much, I really do like this Beyond Blue fescue so far because of the color of it. And I think it offsets that juniper and the blue-gray color of that very well. I may be moving the Gold Star Rudbeckia because I'm not sure it fits in here in this bed, but that is where I had space for it last year when I bought it. But that one is very brightly colored, and I'm actually thinking about just moving it down a little bit to in front of this tree where you see no blooms right now because it's all salvia that is no longer blooming. I think that would be nice. The Gara is blooming, and I do have a bloom on this clematis now, so I do know that this is the Ramona clematis. It is a nice purple bloom, and I am hoping to get some more of those blooms soon as well. We have some phlox that is coming into bloom in this bed. It is the Laura phlox, and it fits in really well with the different colors that we have of pink and purple. And the other pot down here that I have the clematis in with the calibrachoa and the cake pops verbena is blooming. That's the niobe. And I think that one looks really beautiful as well. You can hear the bees just buzzing around me right now as they scoop up the nectar from the plants. And then we have the Liatris hedge, which is still going strong and looking really beautiful. I get lots of questions about what this flower is because it's so visible even from the street. And the pollinators love this as well. It blooms from the top down, and it grows from corms, which are very easy to divide. So originally I had probably about 3 plants of it, and you see it throughout my garden now. The PG hydrangea standard is looking really lovely as it puts out its blooms. And beneath it, the royal fern is looking really lush and enjoying its place here in the garden. I've had this for many years. I also have betony here. This is the Stachy's humilo variety, and it's related to lamb's ear. And the pollinators also really love this. It looks very similar to liatris. It does not bloom for quite as long, but it's definitely a full sun pollinator attractor. And then we have the strawberry hydrangea right here. Strawberry Sunday. It's got tons of buds all over it. And then finally, this bed is really starting to look like a garden with some different colors and some good variety of plants with the azaleas and the bog rosemary and the eastern snowball bush. And I'm really enjoying the way that this dwarf burning bush has turned out since I trimmed it. I'm definitely going to keep it this way and hopefully make it a little bit more of an umbrella shape so that it grows out to the sides a little bit more. And the hostas are doing well. They haven't been eaten by the deer yet. And when you come through this gate out into the front yard, you are greeted by this amazing view full of flowers. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this video today and that your gardens are doing really well and that you're enjoying the summer. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye!